All right, so let's start talking about this warm up. So we have side lengths of 3.75 inches on all four sides of the base of this tee box. And then we have a height of 3 inches. So from the vertex straight down to the base and making a right angle when it hits the center of the base. So something like this. And we need to find the volume and the surface area. How do we find the volume of a pyramid like this? 1/3 area of the base times the height. And because we have a square base, how do we find the area of that square base? Side squared. So we have enough information to find our volume. We have 1/3, and then the side length is how big? 3.75. So 1/3 times 3.75 squared times our height of 3. When you put that into the calculator, what do we get for the volume? 14.063 inches cubed. Thank you. All right, and now we need surface area. What is the formula for the surface area of a pyramid? Super close. Not 2b because we only have how many bases on a pyramid? Just the one. So one base plus 1/2 perimeter of the base times the slant height, which is our cursive L there. All right, so area of the base, again, it's a square base, so we're going to do side squared for that. So that would be 3.75 squared. What is 3.75 squared? It's 3.75 squared. $14.0625. And onto that, we need to add 1/2 times the perimeter of the base times the slant height. So my base is a square, as we've mentioned a couple of times. So the perimeter, I would take 4 sides times the length of each side, which is 3.75. What is 4 times 3.75? 15. So 15 inches for my perimeter. I can go ahead and substitute that in. And then we need our slant height. The slant height would come down one of the lateral faces. It would make a right angle with the base edge there. And it would make a right triangle with the height or with the altitude of this. Do we have the ability to find the slant height? Yes. How far would it be from the base edge to the center of the pyramid? How far would it be from the base edge to the center of the pyramid? 1.875 inches, yes. To get that, we would take the 3.75 inches and divide it by 2. 1.875. All right, now we have everything we need. We can do Pythagorean theorem. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. My slant height would be the hypotenuse because it is opposite that right angle. So in the place for A and B, what are we going to put? 3 and 1.75. Yes. Put 3 in for either A or B and 1.875 in for the other one. And now I need to type these things into my calculator. I don't know off the top of my head what 1.875 squared is. Can somebody do that for me? What is 1.875 squared? $3.515. What comes after the 5? A 6. So that 6 is going to round my 5 up. So 3.516 when I round it to 3 decimal places. Plus 3 squared, that one I can do. What is 3 squared? 9 is equal to my slant height squared. Now I add those two together, I get 12.516 for slant height squared. And then we need to take a square root of both sides so that we can get rid of the squared on our slant height. And what is the square root of 12.516? 3.538 for our slant height. Let me see what you typed in. Because you switched two numbers here. It's 12.516 and you put 156. That's why it's off. It's very, very close to what we got because your number is very, very close, but you transpose those two numbers. All right, so 3.538. All right, so let's take this side and put it into the calculator. 1/2 times 15 times 3.538. This would be the lateral surface area, or the area of the triangles that are making the sides of that pyramid. What do we get when you do 1/2 times 15 times 3.538? $26.535. And then we add those two together to get our total surface area. And what do we get? $40.598 inches squared. Comes out to 5975. That last 5 would round us up. Maybe round to 3 decimal places. Very nicely done. All right. We had a problem to finish up on page 8 in your notes. And then we will go and look at page 9 afterwards. We had started looking at this soup can problem. We figured out how much aluminum we needed to make the soup can. That was our surface area. Part B asks me how much paper I need to make the label that goes around the can. Where is the paper on a soup can? Where is that paper label at? It's on those sides, right? We don't have paper on the top. That's where we want to open it from. And we don't put paper on the bottom. So I'm still looking for surface area because this is the outside piece. This is around the outside. But what do I want to leave out? Because I don't want the top and I don't want the bottom. The bases. Here where it says 2 pi r squared, that's 2 times my bases. We don't want that part. Because this is the 2 circular bases. All right, so let's substitute in then. Surface area is 2 pi times, what was our radius here? 6.5, and our height? 32. What do we get when we do 2 pi times 6.5 times 32. 1306.90, and then I think it's a 3 after that, right? What kind of units should we put with that? Centimeters squared, because that is still area. What comes after the 2? What did you say? A 5. That would round it up to a 3. All right. Part C. How much soup does the can hold? What am I asking for here? Volume. Volume formula for a cylinder is what? Pi r squared, area of the base, times the height. So volume equals pi times 6.5 squared times our height of 32. And we get a total volume of soup of how much? $4247.43. What comes after our 3? Another 3. Perfect. 4247.433. What kind of units? Not squared because it's volume. Centimeters cubed, yes. Any of our areas get centimeters squared. Any of our volumes get cubed. Nice work. Let's flip over and look at page 9, where we are going to talk about some cones. So just like a cylinder is a lot like a prism, we've got 2 bases and then we've got that lateral surface. A cone is a lot like a pyramid. So we have right cones and oblique cones. The base of my cone will be what shape? A circle. From the center of that base out to the outer edge, that is my radius. Right here we have the center of the base. And this is my altitude. And in a right cone, that is my height. And up here at the tippy top, we have our vertex. In a right cone, the altitude is perpendicular to the base at the center. In an oblique cone, the altitude is perpendicular to the base, but not at the center. So here on my oblique cone, here's my altitude. It's making a right angle with the base there, but my center is over here. And here's my radius. In a right cone, that altitude and radius meet each other right at the center of that cone. All right. Does anybody remember how to find the volume for a pyramid? We just did this on the warm-up. What was our volume formula for a pyramid? 1/3 area of the base times the height. And what shape is the base on our cone? It's a circle. So 1/3 times the area of a circle, which is what? Pi r squared times the height. Just like we did with the cylinder, those parentheses are not required. I had the parentheses around it though because this is how we're finding the area of the base. Now let's talk about surface area. Surface area for a pyramid. How many bases does a pyramid have? Just one. So area of the base plus 1/2 times the perimeter of the base times the slant height. Well, in a cone, my base is a circle, so I find the area of the base by doing pi r squared plus 1/2. And then how do we find the perimeter of a circle? What do we call the perimeter of a circle? The circumference. How do you find the circumference? 2 pi r. So 1/2 times 2 pi r times our slant height. So this is the thing that I want to look at right here. What is half of 2? 1. So surface area for a cone then would be pi r squared, because that's the area of my base, plus 1 pi r slant height, because half of 2 simplifies to just be 1. So there's our surface area formula. Pi r squared plus pi r cursive L for my slant height. Can you switch them around? In what way? Put the squared on the end. So like, could you put, oh, could you switch these two pieces around? Yes, you could write surface area is pi r slant height plus pi r squared. That's perfectly fine. When we have addition of two things like that, the order doesn't matter. Like I could do 5 plus 2, I get 7. Or I could do it the other way around, 2 plus 5, and I would still get 7. So that's a good question. All right, so here's my radius. And of course my altitude. My slant height would be this right here. And if we know the radius and the altitude, how should we find the slant height? Pythagorean theorem, yes. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. This is going to be my slant height. Either A or B is going to be my radius. And the other one will be the altitude or the height. All right. Let's do a couple practice problems with our cones. Example number 1, we want to find the volume and the surface area for each of these cones. Number 1 says we have a radius of 8, so I'm going to add that to my picture. From the center of the circle out is 8, and a height of 6. So coming down right to that radius makes a right angle where it hits my radius, and we have 6. To find the volume, what was our formula for volume again? 1/3 pi r squared, the area of my base, times the height. Do we have everything we need to find the volume? Yes. So volume is equal to 1/3 times pi. My radius is 8, so I have 8 squared times the height of 6. And then we pop this into our calculators. And tell me what you get. 402.124. Did they give us units? No, so we're going to put units cubed with this because it is volume. All right, and then surface area. Area of my base, pi r squared, plus pi r and slant height, L. Do I have all of the pieces for my surface area formula? What do I not have? I don't have my slant height, so we're going to need to find that. Pythagorean theorem, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. My slant height is that hypotenuse, so I put the slant height in for c. In for a and b, we put 8 in for one of them and 6 in for the other. So I have 6 squared plus 8 squared equals my slant height squared. What is 6 squared? 36. And 8 squared? 64. 36 plus 64 equals slant height squared. What is 36 plus 64? 100 equals slant height squared. And then we take a square root of both sides so that we can cancel out the squared on our slant height. What is the square root of 100? 10 equals my slant height. Now I have all the pieces that I need for my surface area formula. Surface area is equal to pi times my radius of 8 squared plus pi times my radius of 8 times my slant height of 10. Let's do these one piece at a time. First, let's find the area of that circular base, pi times 8 squared. I got something smaller than that. Give me just a moment. We'll look at it together. What is pi times 8 squared? Got it. Pi times 8 squared gives us how much? .061. And what comes after the 1? A 9, so that's going to round it up to a 2. Plus, now we do pi times 8 times 10. .251.32. What comes after the 2? A 7. And after the 7? A 4. Perfect. So we don't round that one up at all. So we have the area of the circle, and then we have our lateral surface area. We're going to add those two together. I get 452.389 units squared. Nicely done. Let's try another one with a cone. This time it tells me that I have a radius of 5. So from the center of my base out to the edge would be 5. And then a height of 4. So my altitude here makes a right angle where it hits that radius. And this is 4. Volume is 1/3 times the area of the base, pi r squared, times the height of the cone. Do we have all the pieces that we need for volume? Yes. 1/3 times pi times my radius of 5 squared times the height of my cone, which is 4. What do we get when we do 1/3 times pi times 5 squared times 4? $104.72 when you round it to 3 decimal places. Perfect, and that would be units cubed. All right, surface area. Surface area is area of the base, pi r squared, plus pi times r times my slant height. Do we have all the parts? No, what do we need? Need slant height again. So Pythagorean theorem, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. My slant height is my hypotenuse because it is opposite that right angle, so slant height squared goes in for c. In for a and for b, we put 5 and 4. Doesn't matter which one goes where, so I have 4 squared plus 5 squared equals slant height squared. So 16 plus 25 equals slant height squared. What is 16 plus 25? 41 equals slant height squared. Take a square root of both sides. Is the square root of 41 a nice, pretty number? Nope. So let's go ahead and just leave it in its exact form, square root of 41. And we'll worry about changing it into decimal form when we actually calculate our surface area. So surface area, pi times my radius of 5 squared. Let's pause for just a second and do just that part. That would be the area of my circular base. What is pi times 5 squared? 78.539. And what comes after the 9? An 8. So that 8 is going to round my 9 up to a 10, which is going to make this 3 into a 4. So 78.54 plus pi times r, which is 5, times my slant height, which is the square root of 41. What do we get from just that part? Pi times 5 times radical 41. What'd you say? Got an error. Let's see how it was put in. It doesn't like the way that parenthesis went in. All right, try that. There we go. Got 100.58. So total surface area for this cone is going to be 179.12 units squared. All right. We've got one more to look at. Let's look down at number 3. What did they give us on number 3? The height and the slant height. So our height of 15, that's going to go right here. And our slant height is 20, so that would be from the vertex down to our base edge. And we don't know our radius. Do we have enough information to find the volume? No. 1/3 pi r squared times the height, and we don't have that radius. So how am I going to find my radius? Pythagorean theorem, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. What goes in for c? What do we put in for C? I need the hypotenuse of the triangle. What is the hypotenuse of this triangle? 20. So we put 20 in the place of C. So what goes in for A and for B? Radius goes in for one of them. I'll go ahead and put it in for B since I'm working backwards here. So then what would I put in for A if I put the radius in for B? 15, my altitude, my height. What is 15 squared? 225. So 225 plus r squared equals, what is 20 squared? 400. We're going to subtract 225 from both sides. What is 400 minus 225? 175. And then we take a square root of both sides so that we can get rid of the squared on r. Is the square root of 175 a very pretty number? No. Then let's go ahead and just leave this in its exact form. Leave it as radical 175. Now I have a value that I can substitute in for r. Volume equals 1/3 times pi times the square root of 175 squared times our height of 15. What is the volume? How much? 207.796. I got something slightly different. 1/3 pi. Oh, you forgot to square that. Remember, the radius has to be squared. What do we get for our volume? 2,748.894 when we round that to 3 decimal places. That would be units cubed then. Ruby, were you able to get that now? Awesome. All right, just surface area and then we're done. Surface area, we have pi r squared plus pi r times our slant height. So pi times square root of 175 squared. Let's pop just that much into the calculator. This is the area of that circular base. What would be the area of the circular base? 549.7 what? 778? Can somebody double check that for me? It's not that I don't believe you. I've made enough mistakes and I didn't write this particular number down on my notes. So. Awesome. After the 8 comes another 7, right? So what's that going to do to my 8? It's going to round it up to a 9, yes. 549.779 plus. And now we do pi r slant height. So pi times square root of 175 times our slant height of 20. And this would be my lateral surface. What do we get for that? You said 800 what? 831.187. All right, there's our lateral surface. Then we add those two together to get our total surface area. That would be, what, 1380.966. Can somebody please double check me? I'm adding in my head here. Okay, awesome. And that would be units squared. All right. That finishes everything that we needed to cover with both cylinders and cones. You guys have the homework that you got yesterday at the beginning of class when you walked in. That homework is due on Tuesday next week. Yep. Right there. That one right there. It's due on Tuesday next week. Please go ahead and turn in your warm-up pages. I will be out tomorrow, so you will have a substitute. There will be an assignment that you need to complete and turn in that will be review of some of the stuff that we've been working on. And then I will see you guys again next week.